to me, that just doesn't sit right with the soul.
I think to be an artist and survive and live by creative means, you have to be incredibly stubborn. I think you've got to have a lot of grit and a lot of determination. And it can come with like a lot of stress. And also you've got to be a little bit insane to dedicate yourself to something, especially at the beginning, that no one's asking you to do. It's sort of like, I have this overwhelming just compulsion just to do this and I don't know why. And
I have a dream and they don't know what that dream is. They cannot tell me what, I'm just going to have to do it.
Yeah, you need some madness. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? For sure.
That's a scary prospect, isn't it?
Killa Kela podcast. KillaKelaOfficial.com.
Street Culture TV.
Beatbox created.
Killa Kela.
And we're here to talk about world music and street culture.
Killa Kela podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, Killa Kela podcast, live and direct, central London, as central as you need to be, choose to be, could be, want to be, don't want to be anywhere else. And serves you right if we find you in anywhere you shouldn't be. We've got knows how many podcast episodes and a lot of fun to be consumed. It's all yours. So subscribe, tell a friend, and do not hesitate on that one. Okay, people, our sponsors, the mighty GKNIFTYHEADS, have 10,000 play-to-earn GraffPunks NFTs to give away. Get ready as London's white trash goes blockchain digital with Bitcoin Cash tokens locked into them to claim. Get yourselves over to the website GKNIFTYHEADS.com and play to earn now. Inside the house, we got an old friend of mine. A very good friend of mine from a very early age. He was pioneering the art of DJing, won many acclaims, and then ended up travelling the world with the likes of Professor Green, come back with a handful of habits, and then started getting into modelling. And from modelling, he went into rapping, and rapping, he turned into this ambassador of goodwill, self-help, and charitable to the people that are suffering in the world. And what a vocal range he does from TikTok and beyond. IQ, Lukey Storey, how are you?
You are really good at this. That was one take. Yeah. I would need a couple of takes for that. That was a really, really good intro. Well, and you just kind of sat down and went straight into it. You didn't even have to think about it. It's amazing.
It's all day in a life, man. I mean, you make it easier for me knowing that I know you so well. And we're from the ends as well.
Yeah, we are. But I was saying to you just before we pressed record on the podcast that, like, you've done how many episodes now? Like over 600 episodes in your time? Yeah. And you just know so many people. So I'm surprised that your head doesn't explode. I know about 5 that I speak to.
Listen, again, and I know so much and these people know so little. So we have to make the intros.
Yeah. I think I was here, I think I came onto this podcast in 2018.
You were like 86 or something.
What's that?
You were like number 86 or something.
86. But you kind of caught me in the middle of an identity crisis. I think I had pink hair and a T-shirt with tits on.
Did you? I don't remember, really.
So I've come back to make up for it in sort of relatively normal attire.
Yeah, I think we all go through those things. I mean, you delve deep enough into my catalogue and you'll find some questionable carpet cutting of a clothing kind.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like growing up in public. It's sort of like you have your different phases. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do know what you mean.
I remember when I was DJing, like, I didn't realise this, but I had a girlfriend at the time. This is when I was like 17 or 18, and she looked at the back of my bedroom door, and she was like, and there were like 7 grey hoodies on the back of the door, and she was like, why do you only wear grey hoodies? So I think that, in the under 18 DMC times, I just loved a grey hoodie and didn't really switch up from there.
I mean, this is, now we're talking about an era of like deck effects and scratch scala, and all I remember is this distinct look of a young man, a tall model, just towering over the decks with the hoodie on.
Yes,
with a cap on,
yes.
You know what I mean? Like,
the hood made me feel safe. It still does.
Yeah,
I still don't feel quite right without a hat or a hood on. But yeah, no, and probably looking too young to be there. And some of those places, I'm sure they sort of snuck me in through the back door. And
you were a child prodigy for a lot of people. It was like, wow, like this guy's really young, and still to this day. But the point being is that the entry point of like a versatile young person that was just able to do the things that the majority of them people doing in their 20s couldn't do. That was impressive.
Yeah, and I don't know about you, but when it starts with just such a love for what you're doing and for the culture and for hip hop that like none of it was like strategic.
No.
I didn't think, okay, I know what my thing's going to be. I'm going to look younger than everyone else, and I'm going to be really good, and that's how I'm going to stand out.
Yeah.
I just happened to be young, got so obsessed with DJing and learnt off DMC VHS tapes. And then you just find yourself kind of in that position.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, and I'm sure the same for you, right? I mean, it just starts for an undeniable love.
Just a
for
desire. Isn't
and if you really love it, usually you get good at it.
Yeah,
you know?
that's right. There is this sense that, it just so, razor sharp focus on that one singular thing.
Yes.
I mean, and what, beatboxing and DJing alike, it really isn't the kind of thing that is broadly spoken about on the street of, what are you going to do when you grow up? Or where do I get the equipment for that? You really got to dial the fuck in and get an understanding of the nuances of the culture and where you get things and how it's spoken, how it's created, how you practice and stuff.
Yeah. So where did it all begin for you? When did the obsession start? What was your first album or first video that you saw or first song that hit you around the head?
Definitely Anthrax and Public Enemy, Bring the Noise.
Okay, right. And this is what, like 80s, late 80s?
It was like 92, 93.
92, okay, right.
So, I was a late comer to, I must have been about 13 when I found hip hop. When some people always, they proclaim that they're like 7 or 8,
Yeah.
I'd always been beatboxing since I was super young.
Well, my parents were listening to a lot, like, I remember, like, Prince being in the house a lot and, like, Michael Jackson being in the house a lot. So, like, I was into that before I then got into hip-hop. But even then, you can kind of... Some of the feeling from some of those songs and some of the groove, and you can imagine why, like, a lot of hip hop DJs still play Prince in the club and still, you know what I mean? There's just like such a kind of, it's not a far cry.
No,
they're not a far cry from each other.
Especially when you check the correlation of like acts like the Neptunes up against like someone like like Prince, for instance.
Yeah,
there really is a passing of a torch. When you hear like Prince Kiss and the raw structure of the beat and him just doing what he does, and then you listen to Frontin', for instance.
Of course.
Same shit.
Yeah, no, of course.
So there is that DNA to all of those things.
For sure. And I wonder I don't know why we like what we like, whether it's just a complete natural thing. Like, I didn't really gravitate towards rock and roll or indie bands.
No.
And I didn't sort of tell myself that I wasn't going to. I just found myself had a natural inclination to hip-hop music.
That's mad, isn't it? Because that also reflects a level of environment as well. Because you're Northwest, you're born and raised, right?
I've always been Northwest. Dollars-Hill, Kilburn, Cricklewood. Went to school in Cricklewood.
Hail up Northwest, come on, you know what it is.
Kensal.
Yeah.
I now live in Harlesden. I've been around. I stay around there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is it about the locality of everything and
I don't know.
creative
I don't
psyche?
know. From me, from Harlesden to Ladbroke Grove, that feels very much like my patch. I go to East London and I don't feel right.
No, clocks go back and everything. Right?
I just kind of feel a bit like a fish out of water.
Yeah.
South, even more so.
Yeah, I know.
North, I'm good, because North and West are definitely my... But I'll go wherever I have to, if I have to.
Yeah.
But up to me, that's where I'll be.
God, I love that. So nobody, in your close circle, I mean, they were into hip-hop, I'm presuming, but they weren't as active or in the mood for it.
We were just a bunch of kids that all loved to smoke weed and listen to hip-hop. And it was just, and the two go together so well.
Yeah.
And that was kind of it, really. I think at my school, there were people that were into hip-hop and people that were into garage. And how I got started was there was an organisation called Bigger Fish that came into the school. That I think once a week they would bring their turntables, and the people, kids that wanted to learn DJing, kind of signed up for it. And again, like, everyone was kind of mixing garage, and maybe there was an element possibly of like, I want to stand out amongst the people that are doing all the kind of the same mixing of the garage, but it coincided with me. I think my mum brought home a VHS, and it was a tape called The Hip Hop Years. And I just loved the aesthetic of like the Bronx in the 70s and all the graffiti and the DJs.
Big up, Mumsy, we see you.
Yes.
Come
on.
on.
Thanks, Mum.
Yeah.
that started off something cool. And so I just kind of got obsessed with it, and then so the Bigger Fish thing was happening at school. I then kind of discovered DMC, the DMC championships.
Yeah, of course.
And I don't know, there was some sort of magical little connection between those two things, and I started to turn up to Bigger Fish and asking them if I could turn the turntables round that way.
To battle mode, yeah.
So, into battle mode. God, I haven't heard that for a long time.
fine.
You're right, battle mode. And I thought, I think they kind of, what is this kid doing? And I sort of wasn't really doing anything that they were trying to teach me. I'm not even sure if they taught me how to mix. I just learnt to mix by watching other hip-hop DJs. It was really important that I watched other hip-hop DJs mix as well. So like Mr. Thing, Shorty Blitz, Harry Love, MK. It was really important that I was looking at those guys, because before then it was just kind of sort of EZ, and who is incredible, by the way. I mean, I think EZ's incredible. I've never heard that man go out of time.
I've never,
It's unbelievable. I mean, usually you've heard a DJ make a mistake once or twice. I've never heard EZ.
It's a bit like Carl Cox. You just can't imagine it happening.
It's just kind of a bit not human.
It's
just nuts.
Andy C and the like that just happen to have like 6 decks rolling at once.
Yeah, there are certain DJs I've just never heard make a mistake. I've never heard Mr. Thing make a mistake.
Ever.
It's so tight.
You
know what I mean? Yeah.
But with scratch DJing, best terminology we can give it, salute, is the idea that technically you're far more superior than most DJs. I mean, that's definitely got to play a part in, wanting to excel in yourself.
Do you think a lot of scratch DJs feel disheartened or a bit, I want to use the word bitter, but that's kind of...
Has negative connotations.
But like, you could say that I nowadays may lose out on gigs to sort of
purism,
pretty influencers that don't have as many skills, but just kind of in this kind of day and age, or that scratching isn't as celebrated as it used to be. But I don't feel really bad about it, because I just kind of try and adapt and think, okay, maybe nowadays it's more important of the songs that I'm playing and the songs that I'm selecting. And I just kind of want everyone to have a good time, however that happens.
I've got a theory on it. No, you come to mention it. I've got a theory on it. I mean, this could be spicy, so, alerts on now. But I feel like, okay, if you're a enthusiast of turntablism or DJing or something outside of what would be described as like a normal club setup, with every extra cable or extra bit of outboard or every bit of a creative idea outside of the fundamentals that the club have to work with, just imagine that's 10 quid coming off your fucking fee.
Yes.
Because it's another reason why it's going to be harder for you to get the gigs.
And also, I think the exhibition element has, like, a lot of the DJ gigs that I do now, you can't see the decks.
You can't see the decks anyway. You know what I mean?
So I could be scratching.
And
it's, but I still, I mean, it's so embedded in me because that's how I grew up. So I still scratch and scratch songs in. And I still have that kind of scratchy style of DJing.
And the thing is, the counter-argument to that as well, because without taking anything away from the skill set, because everyone needs to have skill sets, but there's a place for Paris Hilton and the DJs are like that do that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I have a fear of growing old and resentful, and I just don't want to feel that way.
I think social media allows more interaction of the more creative space that you want to be.
Yeah.
But when it comes to club stuff, Shorty Blitz is a great example. He'll throw on a few scratches here and there, so the energy's there and he's not faking it. But it's really his brand.
Yes, yeah.
It's brand.
And there's just different components to DJing. I mean, it's like I think selection is hugely important.
Huge, yeah.
Maybe the most important.
Rodigan.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Just vibe, pace.
Yeah.
Not letting a song go on for too long or cut it out too early.
Yeah.
And actually, I heard Mark Ronson say this the other day, and I was like, if you're brave enough to say it, I'm going to say it too, because it's true for me, is I was a better DJ before Serato came along. That's what Mark Ronson said, and I was like, you know what, I've thought that, I never actually kind of really thought about it, but and then I noticed...
What do you reckon the reason for that would be?
It was like almost overnight, Shorty Blitz was whipping out the Serato vinyl, And he was like, sorted. And like, I hated Serato with vinyl. When it was CDJs, it was all right. But like every time I'm like, the back of that mixer, that song's running out.
Oh, God.
And for some reason, when I'm doing that, it's going forwards on the screen. And I was like, I didn't sign up for this shit.
Yeah. This was sort of like, a scratch handbook here.
I didn't sign, like, it was so simple back in my day. Vinyl on, you know.
And
like,
that noise of...
Yeah.
And you're just like, what the
fuck? And it just used to make me panic. And also, like, I'm not the most, like, I don't geek out on equipment. You know what I mean? Like,
no, you're
I'm
rock
not
star.
even...
You fucking sharp and do it.
Well, I'm really good, but I need it to work. And I don't really need to know how it works. I know the basics.
Yeah.
But I just, for me, like, I don't really geek out on equipment. And so when Serato came along, it was really annoying. It was really annoying. And then with the CDJs, with the Serato CDs, that went smoother for me. And now I just rock up with a USB and I love it. Yeah. But you know, when I was a kid, I was like 17, like rocking up with a big bag of like 60 vinyl on my back. You know, like. But I knew those records inside out. So suddenly with Serato, you're spoiled with thousands of songs, or on a USB, you're spoiled with thousands of songs. Well, It took me a while to kind of adapt. Now it's been so long, and I'm kind of like I'm sort of used to the way that I DJ now. But that having to adapt was very annoying for me.
I can imagine.
Yeah,
I can imagine. There was also this adaptation of genres, like this burgeoning dubstep culture suddenly came in.
Yeah,
which in very similar fashion to grime, embraced the DJ club culture and all the technology that was, coming into fruition.
Yes, yeah.
A whole other angle, because music just has this way of constantly evolving. And you have to do it, or you're extinct. So big up all the original guys, anyone that is going into and doing their thing to the original standard. And there's a home for that. But,
I was talking to you before the podcast of. Like, I saw all these flyers from, like, back in the day, and I was just, it's so much nostalgia. And I mentioned, like, A-Track and Craze. Like, they still retain the essence of what they've always done, but they've embraced technology. What, like, A-Track does nowadays, like, blows my mind.
No, it's mad.
Do you know what I mean?
It's mad. And I don't... I don't doubt that there's the skill set that comes into that when they're playing, big EDM-based festivals, and then at the same time he'll do like, Goldie Awards or something. But when you're looking at things online, you'll see him use his talents a lot more, where people have got more time to look at it as opposed to...
Yeah, I mean, he's kept the exhibition element of it alive.
Yeah.
I think sometimes you've just got to be stubborn and go against the times and be like, I'm a DJ, and part of what I do is an exhibition.
100%.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And but yeah, and I think we're talking about where it goes with like influencers DJing and stuff like that. You've got to sort of be stubborn and just be like, this is what I do and I'm sticking to this.
Yeah, because you know what? If your legacy's built on such things and you are pushing future forward on the right areas, it can become the DNA that leads into all sorts of...
Yeah, and when things change in a different direction, suddenly it's like, right, who's loyal?
Yeah. Who's falling off now?
Who's jumping ship or who's loyal?
Totally.
And I mean, you certainly have stuck to your guns, man.
Oh, thank you.
And just quickly to go back to the A-Track thing, even though, like, I think he started out as like a hip hop DJ, but you just know that he's doing what he loves. I don't think he's playing anything that he doesn't love, And that's the other thing of like people not expecting people to grow and have other interests. And when you're celebrated for one very specific thing early on, kind of like I was, it becomes really difficult for people you have to work extra hard for people to accept you as something else or something more.
Yeah, you do.
Do you know what I mean?
Well, it's an investment, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a real investment.
And I've always been really impulse-led. Like, I've had other interests that didn't forward my career, but I loved doing it.
Give me examples.
I don't know. I mean, like, I really enjoyed writing songs and rapping.
You were really good at fucking doing it as well.
And some of those songs I really like, but it just became like an expensive hobby that didn't earn me any money. Yeah. But I kind of loved doing it. And then I kind of got to a point where I was really like depressed and had a lot of issues and a lot of stuff that I wanted to express. And then I got a bit happier and ran out of things to say.
Classic.
So then I kind of, I guess, like, put it to bed. But, like, I'm still really proud of those songs.
Hell yeah, they were fucking great.
And I have an album called Weirdo, which is a 10-track album. It's really well mixed.
And who
the
can
songs
say
are
that?
well written.
Which DJ do you know that can actually say that versatility of doing that? I mean, that was what I always admired, which is why you came on the podcast the first time around, because of these facts.
But from a marketing point of view, you could say maybe it wasn't a good move, because I've always just been an artist, really, and so I've just kind of done what I've wanted to do in kind of like a sort of king baby kind of. Well, I want to do this now. Whereas DJ IQ has been something that has fed me and been so good to me over my life. You could say from a sort of business point of view, perhaps I just really stayed being one thing, but like I just didn't want to be one thing.
Do you think complacency comes into that factor?
In what sense?
In that, well, because speaking, I can.
Yeah.
I can talk on this. Is that if you get high praise for something so early on in your life, and you're able to achieve heights which would go beyond your mum and dad's expectations and your own, and you really take it to the mountain, which you ended up touring with some of really big prolific artists. It almost becomes a given in your head.
I think I got complacent at the height of my career when it was really when I was DJing on a kind of pop level with Pro, and what was unfortunate about that is I'd just been a weed smoker, scratching, DJing with Jest or for Jest and like around all those people, and then when I started DJing with Pro, that coincided with me getting into a bit of the whole Class A's and stuff like that. And I think I just got off the back of a really painful breakup. So I'd landed this new job, which was now touring the world, and kind of got into this new drug. And it was like, I'm just not going to think about what just happened in my life, and I'm just going to embrace this whole thing. And I still did, really well, but what was required of me wasn't the same as doing like all the DMC stuff and like the super kind of technical stuff. So I think I coasted at the time where I was like most visible, and when people thought I was doing like the best, when I was kind of like ended up doing the minimum. Do you know what I mean? But like in terms of complacency, like I've always needed something to do. I've never been able to like, in fact, if I don't feel like I have a passion or a purpose, things get really dark for me. Like I need to have something that I care about.
Idle
and that
time
I really
and all
love.
that sort of thing.
Yeah, that's really kind of extreme for me. And also what I think is that being celebrated and well paid for something when you're really, really young kind of fucks you up later in life. Because my relationship with money is really bad. Because I kind of just like spend it like I don't want it. Like, I don't like it. Because I think I just got really spoiled really young. And the idea of like that I might have to do something that I don't want to do for money is sort of, how dare you? Just because I got so good at DJing so young, and you kind of feel that that's never gonna run out. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do know what you mean. I think there's just to play devil's advocate there. I think there is also something inherent in the creative mind that let's be honest. I can't imagine Brian Harvey or Normski or these large in life personalities in the entertainment world in the UK doing anything else. I don't. And it's not that they couldn't. But it's like we have these set standards within their brand perception, and we know their characters. We know they can be tormented. We know that they can be, highest in the clouds above us, celebrated. It's one of those ones where I just don't think it would do them any good to be in normal civilization.
This is where they can only exist, or where the only way that they can flourish.
Relegated in pain, knowing that they had this career, and then having to me that just doesn't sit right with the soul.
I think to be an artist and survive and live by creative means, you have to be incredibly stubborn. I think you've got to have a lot of grit and a lot of determination. and it can come with like a lot of stress, and also you've got to be a little bit insane to dedicate yourself to something, especially at the beginning, that no one's asking you to do. It's sort of like I have this overwhelming just compulsion just to do this, and I don't know why.
And I have a dream, and they don't know what that dream is. They cannot tell me. I'm just gonna have to do it.
Yeah, you need some madness.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? For sure.
That's a scary prospect, isn't it, for anybody starting out?
Yeah.
Do you think some of the? Do you think there's an ADHD in you?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think I had it. I think a lot of my weed smoking and then drinking and doing whatever else has in many ways been an attempt to quieten down my head. Even in this podcast, I've noticed I've been shooting around a little bit, and it's like one thing leads to another, and yeah, it's definitely. I mean, it's just like I don't really want to be someone who's like banging on about these new terms that we didn't hear until like a few years ago. But I just cannot deny that I have those symptoms that they speak of. You know, like seemingly a real inability to concentrate and to focus.
Well, hold on, banging on. Because I know exactly what you're talking about.
Because there is a theory.
What is
I
that?
had a therapist once that told me that like, and I don't know if I disagree or not, but she kind of said to me that ADHD is not a real thing. It just comes from lack of containment as a child and lack of discipline.
Really?
And I was born into a very chaotic environment where like a lot of my parents were like kind of not around, and so I didn't get that structure as a kid, and I was left to it a lot.
Were you only child?
I'm an only child, yeah. But I was like very hyperactive, and so like, you know, that might be true. Or
You had enough time in your head to play games in your head and
kind of no like little discipline, no structure, no kind of containment, and but whether it's because of that or whether it's an actual like neurological disorder, which it could also be, whatever the reason is, I find that I have a very unmanageable mind. I have a very chaotic mind, and I've just started trying some medication for it, which I kind of need to be a little bit careful with because it's a low-level stimulant, and you know, cocaine stimulant. Are you allowed to mention drugs on there?
That's your podcast. You can talk
them
about whatever you want, my friend.
Right. So and they can be overused or abused, and I'm in recovery, so I need to kind of really keep an eye on that stuff. But like so far so good, and I'm not sure whether I want to, you know, because I took one this morning and I feel like my brain is still bouncing around all over the place. So perhaps they're not working, but like my attempt is like, you know, I want to continue to learn and I want to continue to grow, and I never really studied anything apart from hip-hop culture.
Yeah.
You know, like I never really...
and you're born into the game, my friend.
It feels like, it does feel like, to me, it is a mental disability.
I can imagine.
And it does hold me back in loads of ways.
Kind of imprinted in in the DNA of the time you spent as a young person.
I think that whatever medication gets invented or whether I'm on medication or not, I think that in order for me to thrive, I need to just find things to do that ADHD is a benefit for. Yeah. You know? Like the TikTok thing's been really fun. Talking about recovery, because it's talking and my mind goes quick. Yeah. So I'm like, you know?
Yeah.
And I think, you know, if I hadn't started smoking weed, I probably wouldn't have got good at DJing.
I agree.
Because I probably wouldn't have had the focus, you know? So, that's like an ongoing thing of like the sort of management of my mind. Yeah. Because I want to make the most out of myself.
How have you felt? Because, you know, I love the TikTok. As soon as I saw you on it, I knew exactly where you were coming from. I was like,
I only kind of started like a couple of weeks ago, but I sort of thought, like, talk about what you know. And I've been in and out of recovery for 10 years. And I feel like it might start to help people. You know, by just sharing my experiences and talking about recovery, and I think people can kind of relate to it. And it's already sort of, I get DMs every day saying, you know, thanks so much for your content, and it's like really helping me. And I like, so, yeah.
You know, I think what, you know, this is to your value, is that people like a safe face. Okay. They like someone that is eloquent and has been down the road that not only that they are treading or having trouble with, but also there is this, you know, there is dark side to the music industry, which often people, celebrate in the glory of sex, drugs, and rock and roll.
Yeah.
That brings an element of trust in you that when you are talking to people, you've probably gone to the depths.
Well, I've lived it. Yeah. I've lived it and I've seen it. And yeah, for me, man, it was, I by the end, most of my using was done on my own, which is really sad.
Really. What's the worst time of that? Well, give me a snapshot of.
I mean, it would always start like when I was touring a lot. What would happen is there would always be like an after party, and so we would drink and start using or whatever. But I would get home and I wouldn't be able to stop, and I didn't know I was an addict, and I didn't know that I have this inability to stop when I start, and I don't know, and so. What was so horrible for me was watching the clock, knowing that I had to meet the same people the next day, and for them that it's the next day, and for me it's the same day.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I'm having to kind of prop myself up with Jack Daniels and just try and kind of like
keep it together.
And also I have this kind of I've got a sponsor at the moment who tells me that I tend to minimize how bad it was. I don't know if that's just to sort of. I don't know why, but like, when you're mixing sort of uppers and downers, I'm quite sure in hindsight I was lucky to wake up, many, many times, but just did and just got on with my day in a dysfunctional fashion. But all I know is that I am here, and I'm really sad at how much sort of addiction has eaten my life, because it has, and so much of it was. I've just been battling against myself, but I don't know the stats, and perhaps I should educate myself more, but like the world is filled with addicts. Like addiction is rife.
Well, they don't realise it.
And it can also manifest itself in other ways. But for me, primarily, it was drugs and alcohol. And, and it can manifest in sort of food, sex, money. It goes into all but it's like, for me, I need to kill the crocodile that's closest to the boat. And for me, that's drugs and alcohol. Then I can sort of start to deal with the other things,
Listen, it's admirable because not a lot of people recognise that. Particularly, when someone my age, there's this middle-age process where all of a sudden you do hit a low. You don't realise it. You don't realise what it's all about. It's almost like an imbalance particularly in males. It's, it's like, well, what the fuck is going on in life? I think it lays dormant in everybody. It's like a little, You mentioned about minimising. Do you think some of that is because you've got an air of confidence in you, and when things like being a European, world, UK DJ, whichever you look at it, you toured the world off the back of your successes in DMC, and you kind of, it was almost like a walk in the park for you because that was the impression, because you were just so versatile, and it was just like a given. It's like, because I'm fucking IQ,
Yeah, I didn't have to try hard at any of it, just because I loved it.
Yeah.
And I think that's really the key, is that if you kind of love what you're doing, the money will come.
Yeah.
But
the minimising of that, do you think that's inherently...
The minimising of what? Of being able to getting myself into that position?
Yeah, just, because I think that's part of your course, is that you, to your credit, you do minimise stuff. Obviously, it wouldn't help your psychological...
Yeah, I certainly don't walk down the street thinking, I'm DJ IQ, I'm so sick. I definitely don't think
because
that.
Because you've got 101 qualities, that's the thing.
Yeah, I don't know.
And there is, passe is... Yeah. Because that's just your demeanour.
Yeah, and I have quite a negative mind. The way I talk to myself, like the way I talk to myself, I wouldn't talk to anyone else like that. And I don't know if in some weird way that makes me better at what I'm doing because I'm my own sort of harshest critic or whatever. But I need to ease up a little bit, because there have been times where I thought, like, if someone else was me, they'd be able to enjoy myself a lot more than I am enjoying myself right now.
Yeah, because you are a crack. You're good fun to talk and hang out with.
Okay,
you really are.
That's a nice thing to say.
That's proven right now. But
yeah. Well, you asked me back, so that must be proof.
It's it, exactly. No, it's funny because I think a lot of people that it's a form of self-harming in a way. I mean, there's two ways. There's two lanes, isn't there?
Yeah.
It's either the implosion or the kind of, okay, I'm going to manage my dual personality here. Right?
Yes. Yeah. And I try not to like dwell on things, but like, for me, with my addiction, like, I have to look at it. Do you know what I mean? I have to kind of acknowledge it, that it exists, and work a program to keep it at bay. kind of like someone who has like endless self-interest, who wants to dissect every single thing about himself. I'd much rather be someone that can just get on with his life. But in order to have a good life and to not be drinking and taking drugs or be dead or be completely a train wreck, I have to interact and engage with recovery.
Has age and wisdom helped?
I think so. Yeah, perhaps. I first, when I first arrived and I started going to 12-step meetings, I was just didn't really realize how insane I was, and also if you're someone who's had drug and alcohol problems. Someone said to me, if you want to know why you took drugs, stop taking drugs. Like, the problem doesn't end there, you know? Typically, drug addicts are really sensitive people that feel the world just too much.
Empaths, almost.
Yeah. And I was thinking, like, it's really sort of like, it's sort of, I don't know what the word is, but like someone, like if you see like a drug addict or an alcoholic or someone that's just smashing it so hard, they can look quite cool, like, wow, they really don't give a shit. I mean, like, they're fucking cool. They don't care. But the people that hit it the hardest actually end up being the people that care the most.
Yeah, it's true.
That's why they have to take the edge off this big, scary world, you know?
Oh, God, yes. Really
and so I'm kind of one of them.
Yeah.
You know, drugs and alcohol did a lot for me.
Yeah.
But they also nearly ruined my, I mean, they've ruined my life several times. So if I'm not going to be on drugs and alcohol, then I'm going to need to find some kind of replacement to live comfortably in this world.
What replacements are we thinking here? Are we thinking
creative? For me, it's a 12-step program. Right. You know, I'm like really heavily involved in people in recovery in London.
Fantastic.
I go to meetings, you know.
How often do you go for meetings?
At the moment, I'll go to like 3 a week.
That's really good.
Yeah, but I mean, they're like an hour, so you know, it kind of feels like for a lifetime of drug addiction, it's not a high price to pay, you know. And also, like my favorite people now are in recovery. Really, I mean, there's people also that I love that are outside of recovery and they don't need to be clean and sober. But I think that the friendships that you make in those places are just really special. Yeah, because they're really authentic and really honest. And we need each other because it's not easy, this shit.
How hard? Yeah, I agree. And get more power, honestly. Anyone that's going through stuff, I mean, you know, and Luke's a really good advocate of conversation as well. I'm sure, you know, there's without any doubt, you know, if anyone had any questions, just to hit you up directly.
Yeah,
really.
Please do. I mean, yeah.
But with that in mind, is it like do you walk past the local boozer, you know, do you walk past Mag?
No, I don't.
You don't.
Not anymore because I'm coming up to a year clean.
And you just don't feel it.
So like, I went to a rehab for a month. Actually, no, it was 3 weeks. So I wanted to come back to London and see my girlfriend at the time. But I went to Western Supermare for the first, and I just took myself on the train. I'd been clean before, and I was in a mess. But I just, for some reason, I just got my body onto that train, and then I got into this house where I basically, you know, wasn't able to leave when I wanted, and I'd be going to meetings and I couldn't use, and so that kind of got me well. And then I came back to London and I just started, like, you know, hitting meetings, and exercise has been a huge thing for me. I mean, I feel like a different human being since I started working out, and now I'm obsessed with running, and I'm like running 10Ks like nobody's business. And yeah, I mean, that for the mental health. Yeah. So sort of recovery and exercise has really kind of like got me well.
That's incredible.
Not well, but it's kept me clean.
Yeah.
And where was I? I've lost my train of thought.
Just regular, you know, intervals of doing things that keep you.
Yes,
keep the
and then
momentum
also
going.
I've got quite lucky this year where like I consciously not like overworked myself, but I've still been like DJing at like private stuff, like private events, and like I've got a few regular gigs, and I've been DJing at Soho House quite a lot.
Lovely.
I've had a few modelling jobs that have like paid really well, but like, you know, and they've just come at the right time. So like I was kind of had this sort of year of grace where I could just sort of focus on, you know, getting better. Getting well, good. You know what I mean?
Yeah, something about the gods just timely like bringing things into your
I mean,
sphere.
everything
so cool.
just like, you know, my mental health when I drink and use just gets so bad, Kels. And so it's like, I'm now kind of at a point where I feel like I can confidently start interacting with the world outside of that very safe recovery bubble.
God, that's good.
You know?
Man.
Because, I mean, drugs and alcohol, man, like I always come off the back of a relapse feeling so rattled that I needed to kind of wrap myself around that sort of the cotton wool of recovery.
Yeah.
Because you feel very raw, you know, you feel really like, you know, you get clean. It feels like, sometimes it feels like your skin's on the out, you know, on the wrong way round, you know, and everything just feels so raw. So it's taken me a year just to be like, settle back into my body and just be like, okay, you know, life seems, you know, there's hope now.
God, that's
and I
good.
sort of feel like a sort of functioning human being again.
I like it. We love to hear it on the podcast.
Yeah.
And, you know, again, just speaking out, you know, just to reiterate again, you know, the TikTok lives that you're doing, the conversations. I mean, these are great platforms for you to, and for other people to, you know, to talk.
Well, I was thinking about how to use social media for good. You know, like sort of what do I have to offer? And so I just started like posting videos about recovery and sort of my journey and my experiences, and like people are asking me questions and I'm answering them, and you know, I'm by no means an expert on recovery, but I'm just kind of
it's a lived experience though.
It's a lived experience. I'm kind of learning as I go along. But there are a lot of people that have started to follow me that have addiction problems, and so like if I'm able to help, then that's like it's just nice to be of some kind of service. And
it's just great that you're able to communicate. Again, more than a DJ, more than an MC, you know.
Yeah.
Again, you know, I think this is a podcast in the making. I do.
Yes. No. Exactly. Exactly. That might happen. I might do something like that. Yeah.
I think it should for everybody. For everybody that.
I mean, they say about like speak about what you know or what you've lived.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So you know, I don't have to fake it.
No. No. He's been there, war wounds and everything. So the future's bright and we're looking good. DJing, Soho House and all these different places.
Yeah, so I'm kind of like, I'm still doing what I've kind of always done.
So we like
and
to hear.
still blessed to be doing it.
Yeah.
You know, and where it goes, we'll see, you know.
Fucking great, my brother. Luke, DJ IQ in the building, thank you, my brother.
Thank you, Kels. Appreciate you, bro.
Yeah, come on. Podcast keeps on rolling thunder across the UK and the worldwide landscape, with DJ IQ in the building. What could possibly go wrong? Listen, crime don't pay, but neither do they, all right? Don't talk to anyone I wouldn't. You stay lucky, people. Easy.
Peace.